Welcome back to Daybreak. Time for us to get motivated and inspired, seeing that it is Monday. I'd like to start the week off with a little punch here.
Yeah.
Welio Dendo back with us. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. So this morning we're going to be asking some tough questions. And if you're watching, go ahead and feel free to tweet me at Joey, that's JOEY_Mutengi, using the hashtag Daybreak. Are you a people pleaser? That's the first tough question of the day. We're going to be talking about how it is that you can avoid being taken advantage of. I mean, this Nairobi that we're living in, it's very, very easy for people to kind of see your good nature and take advantage of that, you know, in a with a negative outcome. Now, they say kindness is a virtue, but it's also very taken advantage of or taken for granted. Now, there's people who look at the situation and say, well, I treat people the way I would expect to be treated. Is that a mistake?
It's a honorable thing. I think people should not ultimately change who you are, but you ought to be very careful by how much access you give people. The balance between being yourself and guarding yourself from being taken advantage of is the space you have to create. People begin to be taken advantage of by allowing access to go unguarded, and that access allows those people to show up and take your car when you're not there because, hey, my help knows her, or my brother knows him, and so he knows when he comes, he picks and goes. And you see, that access has gone unguarded, and that means the respect between the two of you has really been watered down to the point that the other person feels they own what you work for, so they don't need to work. You do the working, but you co-own it together. That unguarded space, because for you to be healthy, you need to allow people access into your life. But also that access must be guarded, because people by nature are abusive. Even kids, small kids, they know grown-ups hate crying. And so they abuse crying so that they know grown-ups will do what we want when we do something that they don't. So they know if I cry and I throw myself down on the floor and cry some more, grown-ups hate this habit. And so kids learn it. But now when you put some guards on it, whereby once you allow them to cry and they see you live your life as if they've not, you're sending a strong message to them that your crying is not part and parcel of your control in my life. I have to see the need, assess the need, justify the need for you to cry. If I don't see it qualifies my attention, I let you go through it. And that's part of you trying to build healthy boundaries between you and your child. It can happen between you and your friend. There are friends who by nature naturally like to exploit. You are so in the public light. People normally feel like we work so that we do it for them. I'm seen as a pastor, so people expect me to be, you ought to come to me when you have bills and problems, and people feel they are entitled to sin when they have problems. But they don't know that I too have problems. And if you tell somebody, if you want to see me go through this channel, they feel, no, I don't want to go through this channel. I dictate how I see you, when I see you, but you are the one with the problem. And you're the one whose problems are overwhelming you. Now, giving access and not guarding that access will lead me into what forms what you call the caregiver's burnout, where you are called to provide care, but people bleed you out because they don't allow you room to enjoy the life that you live, to enjoy the things that you think. You don't work hard to just dish everything around. So you enter into those caregivers burnouts, caregivers anxiety, caregivers depression. It is common amongst those of us who are in the limelight. It's common amongst those of us who have high office politicians. They suffer these conditions because of the unguarded access that people feel they have to them.
Unguarded access, right? Makes me feel like I need to get a guard. get security around me.
Get a bob.
Right. So let's break this down, because when you talk about being taken advantage of, it could be in a personal relationship, it could be a work situation. There are people who just give so much to their employers, you know, because you feel like if I lose this job, I'll be done, you know, my life will be over. So you end up giving too much. How do we put guards around that?
I think with every relationships, you define before you refine. Many of us start by, you know, by refining something is now you're trying to make it better. Now, we begin by refining a relationship that you have not actually defined. That we ought to be workmates, and as workmates, there are working hours, and then I have right to a life outside work. We have to define that.
And I feel like WhatsApp has messed up everything, you know, in terms of like employment.
People push it.
Access, unguarded access, once
people
again.
Throw it, they refine it because they feel it has not been refined.
Yeah.
So we are refining now, okay, even if you have access to me, I consistently tell people, you writing me a message, is not mandatory for me to reply because we have not agreed that when you write, I will reply.
Yeah.
And I always get complaints, but I saw you,
You were online.
you're online. But I said I was, but not to talk to you. But people feel that that's cold. But it's important for you to define. And that defining part, it's important for you to define even family relationships, to define that, hey, I work. I'm not, being your brother does not put food on my table. It meets a particular place, it meets particular needs in my life, but it is not occupational to be a brother. It is one of the many pillars of my life. Parental relationships, define, Mom, you brought me to this city and you know how this city works. So if this and this don't, you know, there are those parents who maybe they'll call you like 10 times and I get some guys frustrated and I tell them, why don't you define this thing with your mom and tell them, Mom, I'm now at a place where I know when I need to put on my sweater, I need to put on this. And it helps to define that relationship so that it can be refined now, so that now you can work around it. Unfortunately, abuse begins to be more prevalent because somebody is now afraid to define that, hey, I think I am doing more than my work. I think I'm not supposed to be doing that. And now you're afraid to define or to ask the hard questions of how and where does my work end and where does my volunteering begin? Because working and volunteering, the volunteering is optional. The work part is defined, it's mandatory. So we find ourselves overly fatigued with where we are volunteering, and the energies for our core responsibilities remains totally depleted.
Yeah. I like what the Ngosi has just said on Twitter. He tweeted and said, don't burn yourself out because of not guarding yourself. Where we see yes. I agreed completely. Where we see yes. Why are you trying to be everything to everyone? And you know, I guess the danger in all of this is that people are afraid to be seen as rude, right? Because once you start defining your boundaries, people are like, well, who do you think you are? You know, why can't I have access to you again? Like that whole thing. So how do you know, sort of guard yourself without coming off that way?
Use pain. Eventually, somebody must get hurt. Unfortunately, we always choose that it must be us.
Wow.
We make the choice for people because we feel like it is our responsibility to bear their pain. It is our responsibility to bear the weight of that. In the end, pain was given to show extreme. And whenever you're starting to feel some level of pain, it means your threshold has been surpassed. When you stay in a prolonged state of pain, instead of it, and it remains unresolved, it creates internal inhibitions. Your body begins to find mechanisms to keep that pain from breaking down other parts of you. So you have to use pain, and you have to use it because if you don't tell it, you will yell it at some point.
Oh, if you don't tell it, you will yell it.
You'll yell it at some point. Like so you better start knowing, and that's why you cannot be passive in your life. You have to be proactive. You have to know when I move into this phase, there are things I have to painfully lay down. I have to painfully lay down this, and this, because I cannot enter the next level with old baggage. There are people who exploit old-time relationship. Oh, we were within class 4. You remember we used to play Kalongo? Yes, we used to, but it is not strong enough to give you entitlements in my current life unless you're willing to commit to particular functions and responsibilities in my current life. But you can't exploit what we used to do when we were in class 4.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure that I am proactive enough. I'm not passive and saying, Akianani, Akianani, Akianani. I have to be proactive enough to know I can only help the moving. I can't help the stagnant, the static, the passive. I can't dream for you, love for you, care for you, and all you do is receive, receive. At some point, you ought to be willing to give, and giving is painful. So you have to bring yourself up on the table and know, if I want to maintain a progressive relationship with somebody, I have to keep progressing.
Yeah.
If I want to maintain a money relationship with somebody, I have to show that I am financially disciplined, financially committed, I am financially faithful. But if I have a track record of being sneaky here and there, then be sure I will not be participant. And that's what I'm saying. You have to use pain. You have to be the first person who says, my bro, you're a good guy, but my money is for close family and friends.
Yeah.
Close.
And I like that you brought up the finances, because let me use my personal experience. I'm a sucker for a good sob story. You know, I like watching romantic comedies. Like, when you tug at my heartstrings, it's very hard for me to say no. So, you know, when it comes to that aspect,
you
people
can't
say
be
that
a politician, you can't be a
I'll never,
pastor.
I have no intentions of being a politician. But my thing is, in terms of giving, you know, when it comes to like money, borrowing money from friends, they often say that whatever you give, you shouldn't expect to get back. But the way my mind is thinking is that if I borrowed money from someone, I would pay it back. So how do we define those boundaries then, when somebody comes with a very nice sob story of how they're being deported and sijui what, and they can't pay rent and blah, blah, blah. How do you define that?
I think with money, don't rush it. I always try to advise people that when it comes to making money decisions and acts of kindness, you have to do it in a meritocratic setting where merit, not the story, the merit, the person.
Oof, see,
the
right.
person.
I wish you would have spoken to me a week ago. Not that I'm dealing with anything personal. Not that somebody took my money and ran.
But it could have started in October with the punch.
Yeah.
But it ought to be meritocratic, whereby this person, it doesn't mean that all my friends should be financially stable like I am, but all the people that have access to my money should be functional in my life. Where I come from, I cannot take the problems of Siaya County. No, just because you are my neighbor somewhere up country. I cannot take the problems of Siaya County. I cannot take the problems of Embakasi or Kitengela. Those are not my problems. Those are everybody has their own. But if you are going to play and access my finances, what's your merit? It has got to be you're willing to give time to whatever I am doing, you're willing to commit talent to whatever I am doing, or you're willing to also commit treasure to whatever I am doing. But it cannot be just on the basis of you are going through a difficult setting.
Friendship is not enough.
It's not enough. It has got to be meritocratic. It has to be merit. And the merit is, have you given me the time? When was the last time I saw you? When was the last time I heard from you?
This is personal. But yeah, people who just pop out of the blue. Because I knew you 5 years ago and suddenly you have an issue or a problem or need something. Yeah,
I know you get some of these challenges. I get some of these challenges where people, they get on my inbox, they tell me, hey, this is this and this is this. And I tell them, where are you from and what are you from and nini. Then they say, we cannot start a relationship with help. It has got to have graduated to that particular point. There are people in my life right now whom I will empty my accounts.
Yeah.
Some of them have money, others don't have money. I will empty my accounts and walk free. I would get into my M-Shwari or whatever and get in. But not everybody who has a difficult problem, because I need also to know, if I was to wake up right now and walk to you, would you do the same?
Yeah.
Then it would be, Akianani si unajua by the way, Bish was here. Usionange watu wamevava. Watu wanakuaga. So I have to be, it has to be meritocratic. So if I don't see the merit, I either reduce what I'm going to give. If you want 100, I'll give you 5 to go get the 95, so that I know I've done it because I don't expect much of this relationship to be there. And always know this, any relationship that starts with money ends wrong. because
that should not be the basis.
It
of
should
our
never be
friendship.
the basis. It should not be. If you never cared to know where I was before I was here until now that I'm here, then it cannot work. There are people who walk to my church, some of them are my friends, and they want me to help them. I tell them, I cannot help you in absentia. If it's here, you have to come, either clean the church, dust the seats, wash the car,
do something.
Be present in my dream. Okay, you don't have the money, but you have the time. How are you spending my time? You cannot be absent and then show up when you have need. No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like that. You have to be localized or domiciled somewhere where it hurts. Yeah.
So pay attention to the merit of the person, not to the sob story.
Not to the sob.
Don't get sucked into it. How do you know when you're being manipulated? Because this can come in different forms. It's not just that somebody's asking you for money. It could be that they're just taking advantage of you and your good, kind nature, you know, to service whatever need it is that they have. And some people don't recognize when they're being manipulated. So what are the tell signs there?
One is excessive pressure. Excessive pressure to perform or to act. When somebody is not willing to give you the time to process either an act of kindness or commitment or anything, that's one sign of manipulation. Secondly is you find somebody who is overly sympathetic and overly, oh man, then mepitia vitu moba kenani. And if you find somebody who is overly sympathetic, they you know, there are people who use force, the others who use pain, and so the overly pressure. So niaje umenini, and they call you. Just know they're trying to put you to make a decision that maybe you're not ready to make, but the pressure will make you make it so that they can give you peace. But there's also the overly sympathetic. Now that's where you fall in. The sad stories, they come, Makis jakula siku tatu na nini na nini. Siku tatu? What do you mean jakula siku tatu? Wala jakula siku tatu, we know it shows. But they come with such. They come with an overly sympathetic state. Nani, I've been through a lot, I've done this, I wanted to do that. That is also a tool of manipulation, because they are drawing into your pity so that you don't observe and ask them, why is it you have brothers and sisters in this city who would allow you to stay hungry for 3 days, and you have your mother in this city? What is it about you that even your brothers don't want to feed you? So, but when they play the pity card so much, they make you now lean in and say, akinani watu ni wabaya, akinani. So and this city has a lot of that. You also find the people who consistently try to portray others as if they're unfair to them. That's a sign of manipulation. They say, unajua Fred uringa, unajua Fred uringa. You're picking on you're trying to use that, mimi siringagi, so that you focus on me. You deflect, but the person actually anaringa ni mimi. But I deflect it on Fred so that I shape your perception against him, so that you now need me to define for you nani aringagi na nani anaringaga, ama nani ni mzuri na nani ni mbaya. And that deflecting, it is a sign that this is a manipulator. Actually, that's the best manipulator, because he will never allow you to stop to look at him. He will always tell you, unamtrust, trust.
Just poison in your mind.
Yeah, there's just something about him, and they always pick up something sneaky about him. Unajua leo nimeenda kumsalimia hivi, akanisalimia na kamacho kengine. And you start sensing this guy is consistently trying to deflect and to paint people with strokes that you actually begin to think. And so I am a person whom you can never come and define for me who a good person is. Atu nani na nani. I say, I think I have the presence of mind to ascertain and assess for myself, because I've seen the best manipulators. You will be so isolated from people because this person will pick, I think Joe yako hivi, I think Nani yako hivi, I think Nani yako hivi, and you'll be left alone.
So, okay, so that brings me to my next question, which is for people who have been defined that way of a Miss Nice Guy, Miss Nice person, or you're Mr. Nice Guy, how do you get rid of that label? Because now you've done enough throughout your life where people know, you know, so I'll get what I want.
You have to stop the addiction. You have to stop. You have got to create a new code. And you have got to live by the code you've created for yourself. When I started out, I found that I am an easy-going person that people can easily sneak in, and they would do so many things and tell me this and this. And then it hit me. My main role in life is to lead and to develop content. Buying people bread is over and above what I'm supposed to do. Me doing what I'm doing right now, speaking, developing materials like this, to write a book like this, to publish it, you spending on it and reading it, I have done 70%. The remaining 30% is now optional. But I came to find that that 30% became so fundamental that I could not do the 70%. I could not write the books. I could not do this because every time people were making a demand on my time and I was reflexing and just going. I had to stop, and that's what happens. You have to stop and write a totally new code that this is how I'm going to live. What is it that exactly defines why Joey is here? What's my purpose? And what's my core competence? If this is my core competence, if I want to go into charity, I have to create an organization that feeds people. I cannot live on that. So I have to create it. I have to find a way of servicing that organization and funding that organization so that I don't find myself dying while other people are living, and then I feel betrayed, heartbroken after they've been strengthened. So you have to stop. You have to stop and write a new code of living. Yeah. You have to say, hey, by the way, Joey, I'm here to do 1, 2, 3 in that order. 4, 5, 6 will only be done if 1, 2, 3 has been secured. If I do 1, 2, 3, I am home and dry. The other 30% remaining, 4 and 5, I will do for when I can, how I can. But I don't have to be all that. The hardest thing is for people to bring themselves to the place where they stop. They just simply stop and write new rules. I've had to write so many rules for my life. I had to tell myself, hey,
this isn't working.
This is not the way it ought to be, because funny thing that happens, they go and mobilize, they call one another, I end up bongesha, ako in good moods, ako hivi. I had to stop. If you're not playing a role in my life, your entitlement reduces significantly.
You know, there's also, as we are having this discussion, I think it's also important to note that sometimes when you're saying no, you don't have to make excuses. Yeah. And I feel like that's where people kind of
or give
say,
explanations.
Give explanations. Like, if your no should be no.
Yeah, and the best thing about, I have learned that no has done more good for me than yeses. And the ability to have a ready no, no, and no, and no, and no. Yeah. It already defines people. If you're going to have anything to deal with Welly, the first thing you have got to know, what role am I willing to play in my life? My life has got roles that I need people. And the vision I have, a vision needs people. And you cannot just come into my life and extract from it and not contribute to it. Yeah. And then 10 years later, I find myself and you're up and I'm down because you have extracted all that. I have to sit down and say, nope, I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't do that.
And not be afraid of the backlash, because that's the other thing, is that you're looking at it as people are going to think I'm rude, people are going to think I'm a certain way. That you have to consider yourself first. Actually, what makes people to be people pleasers is because they are purpose empty. Oof.
If your purpose is your driving force, you hardly notice the people who are not in your purpose. If I walk down the street and somebody say, "Kwenda huko, umekonda ka bairo," it doesn't bother me. You're not in my purpose. You actually don't exist outside of my purpose. I'm so full of purpose inside that the people who don't have a place in it, actually, their voice doesn't even reach me.
Yeah, because you're also not looking to them for validation.
For validation. I'm above that. I'm beyond that. I'm so much in it that even if I'm not sleepy, even if I've not slept enough, I'll be here because this is important to me. This is my function in life. If I live here and somebody says, "Hello, tumeyon, tumelala," that's you. But I've done my part. That's on you. Yeah. I can't stop you from yawning. I can't stop you from sleeping. Yeah. But I will not equate my success with what you think about me.
Yeah.
Yep.
When we talk about relationships, it could be a case where someone, was initially in what they thought was a healthy relationship, was being appreciated and treated the right way, and then, down the line they find that they're now being overlooked, or feeling like they're not being appreciated. So now it's like you're working so hard to, you know, get this person's attention or to get back to a place that you once were. Is that helpful at all? Or is that a situation where you just say, listen, if I'm not being appreciated, let me walk away?
The worst thing is to get into a relationship and to expect the appreciation to continue.
Oof, yeah.
The appreciation ends where your value ends. Mm-hmm. The secret to remaining appreciated is to keep increasing your value.
That's tough, Welly. Let me just take that in. Let me take that in. Okay.
When your value ceases, especially, you see, love as a way of making, you see, love when it is ignited, let me use the word ignited, it is very easy. You can just be dressed like that and I feel, my goodness, I think I've seen Eve. And I do everything to come at you and I get you and all that. And then we start engaging each other. Oh, I see vision-wise we are, wow. You have more likes than me, wow. And then suddenly we hit a limit. And that limit is your value for me, it hits a limit. If you don't appreciate that value, then I'll now be operating on credit because I've exceeded you. So I have to make sure if I want to remain in any relationship for a longer haul, my value has to keep increasing as the relationship keeps growing on. Or else, just like the dress you bought last year in July, where is it?
Does not excite me as much.
Doesn't excite you as much. And you remember you licked it up quite like Akianani.
What does that actually mean? What does it mean to increase my value?
To increase your value is, first of all, you have got to keep yourself in a healthy state. Nobody makes you healthy. You have got to do the things that keep you healthy. That is making the right choices, having the right priorities, increasing what I would say, territory under your control. That is either work or whatever it is. Increasing territory under your control. Playing a major role in accomplishing something that is bigger than you, so that when somebody is in your life, they feel they're part of something bigger. Nobody wants to be part of something smaller. At your, I don't have milk and bread, and those are things you can handle.
Yeah.
People want to be part of something bigger than you, and you have to find the big. And so that as people come into your life, they always feel like we are doing something so big, we will need the rest of our lives to complete it.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah. That will preach.
Powerful. That's a word. There might be people who just have that. You called it a caregiver sort of syndrome.
A caregiver syndrome.
Yeah, where they feel like they just need to fix everything. How do you avoid becoming that person where you feel like everything needs fixing and I'm the one to fix it? Like the Ngosi said, oh, yes. So if you find yourself doing too much there.
You have to define your limit. It is growing trees that produce fruits. If you stop growing, you'll stop producing fruit. Toxic soil affects the fruitfulness of the tree. When you find yourself around too much toxic people, your fruitfulness ceases. Giving care is placing yourself in a very, very highly demanding, emotionally, mentally, financially, socially setting. And if you're not careful, you become those you're helping because they put so much in you. I see people who went to help women who have gone through abuse, and they came out as equally, not physically, but they came up to shape the perception that men are dogs, men are this, and they went in as helpers. And they came out with the perspective of the person who needed help. But that should not be the case. I have seen men who had a bad relationship and had something and they went to help. And so if you're not careful, when you handle the sick, you must be careful that that which is in the patient does not become in the caregiver. And so you have to make sure that you're making healthy life choices. You have to put yourself in a structure so that you don't find yourself doing more on the help side and little on the health side, because it is your health that is providing help. The more healthy you are, the more helpful you are. But if you're not as increasing in your health and increasing your resistance and increasing your, what I would say, your level of understanding of dealing with problems without being there physically, because that's the highest point of freedom. That's what we call leadership, is the ability to make people solve their own problems without you. If you struggle there and you find yourself that you feel like I have to be the person doing it, I ask people all the time, somebody comes and tells me, blah, 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 I'm going through this. I tell them, have you read my book? You know I'm not a reader. Have you watched the interviews? These Citizen people, they put them up for free so that you just go and watch it there. Oh, you know, Sinanet. So you need the help, but the thing that can get you healthy, like simply reading 80 pages, that's too much work. But sitting outside and waiting for me, that's easy. That's easy. That one you can do.
So people are not willing to invest.
They are not willing to invest in their health. So it starts with that investment. And for caregivers, I always advise, always find a self space. Always have a self goal. That self goal should not be clouded with the group help that you're providing. The more helpful you begin to be to people, the more you lose those self-critical goals, because those goals are benchmarks. They keep you motivated. If my goal was to be here and I've lost it, now I'm going that way, I'll soon and very soon I'll burn out, because I'll feel I've sacrificed everything and you people are not changing. But if I'm heading towards my goal and in the process I help some people, it gives me a sense of motivation, a sense of purpose, because as I'm helping, I'm getting to my goals, I'm achieving and realizing my goals. I see it is only politicians who come to you with words of service and end up with full commitment to goals. Because if a politician said, you know, I want to go to a good school, I want my children to have a good life, I want to have quality life, we'll say, no, but they come with the, hey, I want to do this, I want to do this for you, for you, for you. Then they get in and you discover it was not about you. You're not a politician. You're not trying to get people to vote for you. So you have to have, these are my goals. And if these are my goals, this is my path, this is my journey, define it, and then as a caregiver, move towards your goal. Help the people on your way to your goals. Don't abandon your goals to go look for people who need help, then help them, and then think you'll have strength to come for your goals. Goals are demanding, they are draining. It will take you the rest of your life to achieve 2 or 3 of them.
Right.
Yeah.
When we were starting this conversation, you talked about pain being a motivator. To someone who's been taken advantage of, and they're watching this and realizing, my goodness, I've been taken advantage of. How do you move through the pain to get to the lesson? And I think that you know, if it's something especially that just happened, it might be a little bit raw for some people, and it might be hard to see, you know, that in the end, yes, this terrible thing happened, but this is what I'm learning from it.
I think all human experiences begin to end with acceptance. Accept, because you always feel bringing yourself to that point of acceptance. It's very hard to get rid of
bitterness. Especially when you know you're right
you feel
and
like
someone else is wrong. You know.
Acceptance is the first phase. The longer it takes you to come to acceptance, the longer the healing takes, because the healing begins after the acceptance. Accepting is an internal process of coming to terms so that you can focus on dealing with the consequences. Resisting to accept is to say, I am not ready to deal with the consequences. I still want to expect life to be more kinder, life to behave in a manner that will fit my bill.
People to act the way I would act.
People to be like this. But accepting will bring you to the place where you will begin to focus now, what are the consequences of these people who have taken advantage of me? And by you accepting is you saying, I'm willing to deal with the consequences of that. If it is money I have lost, I will focus, repay it, and come to the second place. After accepting, I adjust. I cannot put myself in the same posture I was being taken advantage of. I cannot say, oh, you may be a very good person, but you're living amongst bad people. So if you're a good person amongst bad people, put a wall, get bigger dogs, put an electric fence. Those are adjustments you have to make. Ideally, we should be living without fences. If you live, there are countries where people don't put fences. But because you're amongst bad people, we have to adjust, because we don't want to fall victim of the places where we are in. So you adjust that. And that adjustment will help you now to make the thing that happened not to reoccur, so that you're not living the cycle of consistently being victimized. So you adjust. After adjusting, you come to the third place, which is adapting, where you come up with a new attitude and a set of rules by which you are going to be living by. Which an adaptation is, you have reinforced it now. You have reinforced it in your system until it is now natural for you. You don't even feel as if I am adjusting. You've adopted now. This is the new you. The new you is who did you say you are again? I'm sorry.
I don't know you.
I'm sorry. I would love to do that, but I don't do that. And if I'm going to do it, I need some time to think it through.
Yeah. So accept, adjust, adapt. And let me tell you, just as a side note, just anyone watching, don't lend money to people who you don't know where they live. This is the thing. If you've never been in this person's house, why are you lending them money?
Yeah.
Before I get too carried away, in case anyone would like to read these 80 pages.
These 80 pages, actually they're running out. We are working on the next one, on the power of branding and personal branding. And I'm co-authoring it with a girl this time. This time I want to see what girls have to say about branding. But this one is available. I think we have very few remaining. Actually, I think we have like 20 or 30 or very few remaining. The number is 0720536247. Yeah. Breaking the back of luck. I was telling somebody, we all begin rich, we are made poor. We don't begin poor to become rich.
It's not the other way around.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay, that's a discussion for another day.
That's an excuse to be invited.
Let's talk about that another time. Your social media?
Welly Odendo, that's W-E-L-L-Y Odendo. Instagram, you call it Twitter? And Facebook.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming and inspiring us this morning. And, you know, whether you've been taken advantage of or not.
Wasamehe.
Wasamehe. As Jesus would do. All right.